The morning sky over New York turned black as massive ships blocked out the sun. People stopped in their tracks, cars screeched to a halt, and millions of faces turned upward in shock. This wasn't like the movies. There was no warning, no gradual approach. One moment the sky was blue, and the next, it wasn't. Inside the United Earth Defense Coalition headquarters, alarms blared through every corridor. Colonel James Walker ran toward the control room, his heart pounding against his chest. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but nothing could have truly prepared him for the reality of first contact. "Report," he shouted as he burst through the doors. The control room was a maze of screens showing similar scenes from around the world. London, Tokyo, Moscow, all under the same dark shadow. "Sir, we're detecting 23 ships in total," Lieutenant Rogers said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "They're positioning themselves above major cities worldwide. Size estimates suggest each ship is roughly 3 miles long." Walker's jaw tightened. Earth's most advanced aircraft carrier was only a fraction of that size. "Any communications?" As if in answer to his question, every screen, phone, and digital device across the planet flickered to life. A face appeared, almost human, but not quite. The being had pale gray skin, eyes too large and too dark, and no hair. When it spoke, its words were perfectly translated into every Earth language simultaneously. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Reed of the Dominion Vanquisher Force. Your world has been chosen for integration into the Dominion Empire. We are your new rulers." Walker watched as Reed's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. "We are not barbarians. We offer you a choice. Submit to Dominion rule, and your transition will be peaceful. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate why we are called the Vanquishers." The message ended, leaving billions in stunned silence. In the control room, Walker turned to his team. "Get me the president. Now." Within minutes, he was connected to an emergency video conference with world leaders. The faces on his screen showed varying degrees of fear, anger, and determination. "They're lying," Walker said firmly. "I've studied enough military history to know that when someone promises a peaceful occupation, they're planning anything but." The Chinese president nodded. "Agreed. Our satellites detected energy readings from their ships, their weapons powered up and ready. They expect us to surrender without a fight," the British Prime Minister added. "They think we're primitive." Walker looked at the tactical display showing the alien ships' positions. The Vanquishers had made their first mistake. They had revealed their hand too soon. While their ships blocked the skies of major cities, Earth's hidden military bases remained untouched. Submarines patrolled the depths, and underground bunkers housed humanity's most advanced weapons. "They're strong," Walker said, "but they're arrogant. They think this show of force will make us kneel. They don't understand humans." The President of the United States spoke last, her voice steady. "Colonel Walker, as of this moment, you have full authority to coordinate Earth's military response. All nations have agreed. We stand together or fall together." Walker straightened his back. "Send word to all commands. Operation Dark Sky is now active. We show these Vanquishers that they made a mistake targeting Earth." As the meeting ended, Walker watched the alien ships through the command center's reinforced windows. They hung in the sky like metal mountains, powerful and imposing. But Earth had its own strength, not in the size of its ships or the power of its weapons, but in the spirit of its people. The Vanquishers had come expecting to find a primitive species ready to surrender. Instead, they were about to meet humanity at its finest, united, determined, and ready to fight for its freedom. The first shots would be fired soon. And when they were, the Vanquishers would learn that Earth wasn't just another planet to conquer. It was going to be their greatest challenge. 3 days after the Vanquishers' arrival, Colonel Walker stood in front of a mirror, adjusting his uniform. Today's meeting with High Commander Reed would either bring peace or start a war. The chosen location was neutral ground, a hastily constructed meeting facility in Switzerland's open fields. "Sir, the transport is ready," Lieutenant Rogers said from the doorway. "Security teams report no unusual activity from the alien ships." Walker nodded. "They don't need to show unusual activity. Their ships are enough of a threat just hanging there." The helicopter ride was silent. Walker studied the tablet containing Earth's carefully worded response to the Dominion's demands. They would offer trade, cultural exchange, even limited resource sharing. Anything except surrender. The meeting facility was a simple white building surrounded by green fields. 2 Vanquisher guards stood at the entrance, their armor making them look twice as large as normal humans. Their weapons were unlike anything Walker had seen. Sleek, almost organic-looking devices that pulsed with internal light. Inside, High Commander Reed sat at a long table. Up close, he looked even less human. His skin had a metallic sheen, and when he moved, it was with an unnaturally smooth grace. "Colonel Walker," Reed said, his voice carrying an artificial warmth. "Please sit. Would you like a drink? We have synthesized your earth water perfectly." "No, thank you," Walker replied, taking his seat. "I think it's best we discuss why we're here." Reed's large eyes studied Walker with unsettling intensity. "Of course. Have your leaders reached the sensible decision? The Dominion offers great benefits to its member worlds. Your people would prosper under our guidance." Walker placed a data pad on the table. "We have a counter-proposal. Earth offers friendship, not submission. We can share knowledge, culture, resources." "Stop." Reed's artificial warmth vanished. "Colonel, perhaps I wasn't clear. This isn't a negotiation. The Dominion doesn't make offers that can be refused. Every civilization has the right to choose its own path," Walker argued. "Your way isn't the only way." Reed stood slowly, his height towering over Walker. "Let me tell you about the last world that refused us. They were more advanced than Earth, with weapons that could destroy stars. They fought bravely." A cold smile crossed his face. "Their sun still burns, but their planets are now Dominion mining colonies." Walker felt a chill run down his spine, but kept his voice steady. "If you're trying to frighten us, you should know that humans don't respond well to threats." "Not threats, Colonel. Facts." Reed walked to a window, looking at the peaceful Swiss landscape. "The Vanquishers earned their name across 1,000 worlds. We have never failed. Your species is young, primitive, divided. You won't be the first to resist, but like all others, you will fall." Walker stood up. "You're wrong about us being divided. Your arrival did something no other event in human history has done. It united us." Reed turned, his dark eyes narrowing. "Unity won't save you. You have 24 hours to surrender, or we will begin our standard conquest protocols." He paused. "Though I admit, I look forward to adding your species to our collection. Humans have a certain spirit that will be interesting to break." "Then we have nothing more to discuss," Walker said, heading for the door. He stopped and looked back. "But remember this moment, Commander. Remember that we offered peace, and you chose war." The ride back to headquarters was tense. Walker's hands were shaking, not from fear, but from anger. He keyed his communication device. "This is Colonel Walker. The diplomatic option has failed. Begin Phase 2 of Operation Dark Sky. The Vanquishers want to see humanity's spirit." He looked up at the massive ships still blocking the sun. "Let's show them exactly what human spirit means." As his helicopter flew beneath the shadow of alien ships, emergency signals were already racing across the globe. In hidden bunkers, submarine bases, and underground facilities, humanity's defenders prepared for the fight of their lives. The Vanquishers had never failed to conquer a world, but they had never faced Earth before. The war for humanity's freedom was about to begin. Dr. Anna Miller hadn't slept in 2 days. Her lab in the underground facility was filled with holographic displays showing brain wave patterns, both human and alien. A captured Vanquisher helmet sat on her desk, its strange metal still pulsing with faint light. "You need to see this," she said as Colonel Walker entered the lab. She pointed to two different patterns on her screens. Their neural patterns are unlike anything we've seen. The vanquishers aren't just connected to their ships, they're connected to each other. Walker stepped closer to the displays. Above them, they could hear the distant rumble of another bombing run. The war had been raging for a week, and while humanity's hidden weapons had surprised the aliens, the vanquishers were still pushing forward with deadly efficiency. "What exactly are we looking at?" Walker asked. "It's like a hive mind, but more advanced." Miller tapped the helmet. "Each soldier is linked to every other soldier. They share thoughts, strategies, even reflexes. That's why they fight so perfectly together." An explosion shook dust from the ceiling. Miller barely noticed, too excited by her discovery. But here's the interesting part. They can't turn it off. They've become completely dependent on the network. Walker's eyes widened as he understood. That's why they're so coordinated in battle, but also why they can't adapt quickly to our guerrilla tactics. Exactly. Miller pulled up new data. Look at these readings from the Amazon battle. When our forces split up and attacked from multiple directions, the vanquishers took 40% longer to respond. They had to reach consensus through their network instead of acting on individual instinct. The door burst open and Major Thomas Ford rushed in, his combat uniform covered in dirt. "Colonel, you need to see this. We just got footage from the Russian front." Ford played a video on the main screen. It showed a group of farmers who had turned their agricultural machines into makeshift weapons. They'd caught a vanquisher unit in a maze of cornfields. The aliens' perfect formation had fallen apart in the chaos of the ambush. "It's happening everywhere," Ford said. "India, Kenya, Brazil, wherever we fight unpredictably, they struggle to adapt. But we're still losing ground. For every victory like this, they take two cities with their superior firepower." Miller grabbed the helmet from her desk. "Maybe not for long. Their neural network is their strength, but it could be their weakness too, if we could disrupt it." Walker turned to her. "How long would you need?" "A few days, maybe a week." "I'll need help." She looked at the helmet, and more samples of their tech. Another explosion, closer this time. Ford checked his tablet. "They're pushing toward the facility. We need to move soon." Walker made a quick decision. "Dr. Miller, you have 3 days. Ford, I want raids on their forward units. Get the doctor the tech she needs. I'll coordinate with Global Command to step up guerrilla operations. Keep them confused. Keep them reacting." As Walker and Ford left the lab, Miller turned back to her screens. The vanquishers' neural patterns danced across the displays like deadly poetry. They were beautiful, perfect, and that perfection would be their downfall. In the command center, Walker watched the global battle map. Red dots showed vanquisher-controlled areas, spreading like a disease across the continents. But between those dots, in mountains, forests, deserts, and cities, humanity was learning to fight back. A message flashed on his screen. Success from the Australian outback. A small team had taken down a vanquisher patrol using nothing but modified mining equipment and the harsh desert terrain. Walker smiled for the first time in days. The vanquishers had come expecting to find primitives. Instead, they found humans. Adaptable, unpredictable, and most dangerous of all, learning their enemies' weaknesses. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity's greatest strength would be its diversity. Millions of minds thinking independently, fighting in their own ways, about to take on the perfect unity of the vanquishers. The question was, which would prove stronger, perfect coordination or perfect chaos? The abandoned streets of London echoed with the sound of battle. Major Ford crouched behind a fallen piece of concrete, watching the massive vanquisher command ship hovering just 300 feet above the Thames River. His team of 20 soldiers waited in hidden positions around the area, each armed with experimental weapons developed from Dr. Miller's research. "All teams in position," whispered a voice through his earpiece. "Ready on your mark." Ford checked his tablet one last time. The plan was risky, maybe even crazy, But they had run out of safer options. Dr. Miller's voice came through his earpiece. Remember, the disruptors only work at close range. You'll need to hit them before they can react. Copy that, Ford replied. He took a deep breath and gave the signal. Operation Trojan Horse is go. All units, execute. Suddenly, the quiet streets erupted in chaos. Hidden sonic devices activated, broadcasting the exact frequency Miller had discovered in the Vanquisher neural network. The aliens' guards stumbled, their perfect coordination temporarily scrambled. Ford's team struck from multiple directions. They moved exactly as practiced. No pattern, no formation, each soldier acting independently. The Vanquishers tried to respond, but their linked minds couldn't handle the randomness of the attack. Main entrance secured, reported Team 2. Moving inside. Ford sprinted forward with his unit. Inside the ship, the corridors were a maze of organic-looking metal. The sonic disruption was working. They encountered confused Vanquisher soldiers who fired too late or moved too slowly. Control room ahead. Miller's voice guided them through the ship's layout, which she had studied from the captured helmet data. Be careful. The neural disruption will be weaker there. The doors to the control room were sealed. Ford planted the charges they'd brought, specially designed to work on the alien metal. Everyone back. The explosion ripped through the door. Through the smoke, Ford saw Vanquisher officers trying to coordinate a defense. But without their neural network working properly, they were fighting like individuals for the first time, and they didn't know how. Room secured, Ford announced 10 minutes later. Around him, his teams were already connecting Dr. Miller's devices to the alien computers, beginning data transfer. Back at the underground facility, Dr. Miller watched as alien data flooded her screens. Her hands flew across the keyboard, sorting through the information. Colonel Walker stood behind her, watching the stream of alien symbols. There, Miller pointed to a section of code. Their entire neural network. I can see how it works now. It's beautiful, but it's also fragile. They sacrificed individual thinking for perfect unity. Walker leaned closer. Can you use this? Miller nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. With this data, I can turn the disruptors into something bigger. Much bigger. We could disable their entire fleet's network at once. How long? A few days to write the virus. Then we'll need to get it into their main systems. She looked up at Walker. We'll only get one shot at this. Once they realize what we're doing, they'll adapt. Walker smiled grimly. Then we'll make it count. Later that night, Ford stood on the roof of the facility, watching the captured command ship being moved to a secure location. It was their first major victory, proof that the Vanquishers weren't invincible. His tablet beeped with a message from the Global Resistance Network. Similar strikes were being planned worldwide. The captured ship's data had revealed locations of Vanquisher weak points, and humanity was ready to exploit them all. Sir, a young soldier approached him. Dr. Miller wants you in the lab. She says she's found something else in the alien data. Ford took one last look at the captured ship. The Vanquishers had thought their greatest strength was their unity. They never considered that it might also be their greatest weakness. Now, humanity was about to teach them a lesson about the power of thinking differently. The tide of the war was about to turn. Colonel Walker stood in the rebuilt command center, now deep underground in the Rocky Mountains. The wall of screens before him showed a world at war. But for the first time in 2 months, the red dots marking Vanquisher control were starting to retreat. Phase 1 is ready, Dr. Miller announced, walking in with Major Ford. Dark circles under her eyes showed how hard she'd been working. The virus is uploaded to all our captured Vanquisher weapons. Once activated, it will spread through their neural network like a cold through a classroom. Ford laid out a tactical map on the central table. Our forces are in position worldwide. The Vanquishers still haven't figured out how we took down their command ship in London. They're expecting more small attacks. Then let's give them something bigger, Walker said. He pressed a button on his comm unit. All commands, this is Colonel Walker. Operation Wildfire is now active. Begin countdown. Around the world, hidden resistance forces emerged from their shelters. In the Amazon, tribal warriors armed with modified Vanquisher weapons moved through the trees. Among the ruins of Tokyo, soldiers prepared captured alien vehicles. Under the ice of Antarctica, submarines loaded with new weapons powered up their engines. 10 minutes to global attack, the computer announced. Dr. Miller monitored her screens, watching the virus waiting in their captured weapons. Remember, we'll only have about 30 minutes before their system adapts. Every strike has to count. 5 minutes. Ford checked the latest reports. All teams confirmed ready. Even the civilians are in position. Walker nodded. The Vanquishers had made a mistake thinking they could control every part of Earth. They had focused on cities, ignoring the farms, mountains and seas where humanity had regrouped and planned. 1 minute. Send the code phrase, Walker ordered. Across every resistance communication channel, 3 simple words appeared. Remember the sun. Attack beginning in 3, 2, 1. The world erupted in coordinated chaos. In New York, dock workers used hijacked Vanquisher loading machines to tear into alien ground forces. Over the plains of Africa, captured alien flyers engaged in dogfights with Vanquisher patrols. The virus spread with each shot fired, each system connected. Virus spreading faster than expected, Miller reported excitedly. Their network is actually helping us infect more of their systems. The Vanquishers responded with their usual perfect formation and coordination. But now, humanity was ready. Every time the aliens formed up to attack, resistance forces would scatter, strike from new directions, then disappear again. Sydney is clear of enemy forces, Ford announced. Moscow reporting successful pushback. Cairo holding strong. Walker watched as more red dots vanished from his screens. The Vanquishers were falling back, their formations breaking apart as the virus spread through their neural network. Without their perfect coordination, they fought like any other army. And humanity had been practicing warfare for thousands of years. Sir, Miller pointed to new data on her screen. They're trying to adapt, but it's causing confusion in their ranks. Some units are receiving old commands, others new ones. Their whole command structure is in chaos. In the skies above Earth, Vanquisher ships began to move erratically. Some tried to maintain position while others started to retreat. Their perfect formation, which had darkened Earth's skies for months, was finally breaking apart. Walker allowed himself a small smile. Send word to all commands. Push forward. Don't let them regroup. As the battle raged on, humanity's true strength showed itself. Farmers turned their fields into traps. City workers used their knowledge of underground tunnels to ambush alien patrols. Every human fought differently, adapted differently, and the Vanquishers couldn't handle the endless variations. For the first time since they arrived, the invaders were learning what it meant to face a species that had survived countless disasters, wars, and challenges. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were showing the galaxy's greatest warriors how real battles were won. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. And Earth was ready to finish what the Vanquishers had started. Space was never meant to be silent. At least not today. Above Earth's atmosphere, the largest battle in human history was about to begin. Hundreds of captured Vanquisher ships, now controlled by human pilots, faced off against the main alien fleet. The future of Earth would be decided in the next few hours. Dr. Miller's voice crackled through the command center speakers. She was aboard the captured command ship, preparing to launch the final version of her virus. All systems ready. Virus distribution at maximum capacity. Colonel Walker watched from the underground base as countless dots moved across his tactical screen. Every surviving nation had contributed to this moment. All units report in. Atlantic Fleet, ready. Pacific Division, standing by. European Squadron, in position. Asian Coalition, awaiting orders. Major Ford's voice came last. He was leading the main attack group. Strike Force Alpha, ready to begin. Walker took a deep breath. Remember, we need to hold their attention for 10 minutes while the virus uploads. After that, he paused. After that, we make them regret ever coming to Earth. High above, Ford sat in the modified captain's chair of a captured Vanquisher ship. The alien technology felt strange under his hands, but after months of practice, he could use it almost as well as they did. Almost. Begin the attack, Walker ordered. The human fleet moved forward, but not in the perfect formations the Vanquishers expected. Each ship chose its own approach, its own speed, its own target. The aliens' fleet responded with their usual coordinated precision and flew straight into humanity's trap. They're taking the bait, Miller reported. Their neural network is fully active, trying to counter our random attack patterns. Beginning virus upload. Now, the space battle erupted in chaos. Human ships weaved between enemy vessels, never staying still, never following a pattern. The Vanquishers tried to predict their movements, but couldn't. Their networked minds struggled to track hundreds of ships all doing different things. 5 minutes until full upload, Miller announced. The Vanquishers began to realize something was wrong. Their formations became tighter, more defensive. High Commander Reed's voice boomed across all channels. Fall back. Something is interfering with the network. Fall. His voice cut off mid-sentence as the virus hit his ship's systems. 7 minutes, Miller counted. Ford's ship rocked with a direct hit. We're taking heavy losses. How much longer? 8 minutes. The virus is spreading faster than they can adapt. Walker watched as the Vanquisher fleet's perfect formation began to break apart. Some ships turned against each other, confused by corrupted network signals. Others froze in space, their crews unable to function without the neural link they depended on. 9 minutes. High Commander Reed's massive flagship began to drift. Its weapons went dark, its engines sputtered and died. 10 minutes. Virus upload complete. Miller's voice was triumphant. Their entire network is corrupted. All units, Walker commanded, execute final attack plan. Show them how humans fight. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire, but now the humans were the coordinated ones, while the Vanquisher ships moved like drunk dancers, unable to work together, unable to even think alone after relying on their network for so long. Ford watched from his bridge as the mighty Vanquisher fleet fell into chaos. They're retreating. Multiple ships jumping away. One by one, the surviving Vanquisher ships vanished into deep space, leaving their commander's flagship behind. On the tactical display, Walker watched the red dots representing enemy ships disappear. After months of fighting, after millions of human casualties, after nearly losing everything, they had won. Send word to all Earth forces, Walker said, his voice thick with emotion. The Vanquishers are running. Earth is free. The cheer that went up from every radio channel, every command center, every resistance hideout, was loud enough to shake the stars. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. But in the captured Vanquisher flagship, now drifting powerless in space, High Commander Reed watched his fleet retreat with different emotions. Fear, confusion, and for the first time in his life, respect. 1 month after the Great Space Battle, Colonel Walker walked through the corridors of the captured Vanquisher flagship. The massive ship now rested in the Nevada desert, surrounded by research facilities and military installations. Its dark halls, once filled with alien warriors, now buzzed with human scientists and engineers. The repairs are almost complete, Dr. Miller said, walking beside him. She looked different now, more confident, wearing a new uniform with the United Earth Defense Coalition's Science Division patches. We've learned more about space travel in the past month than in all of human history. They entered what used to be High Commander Reed's private quarters, now converted into an interrogation room. Reed sat at a table, his tall frame somehow looking smaller without his combat armor. His dark eyes followed them as they sat down. Have you come to gloat? Reed asked, his artificial voice tired. Walker shook his head. We came to understand. You've agreed to answer our questions in exchange for fair treatment. Let's start with the big one. Why Earth? Reed was quiet for a moment. We chose Earth because our scans showed you were divided. Different nations, different beliefs, different ways of fighting. We thought it would make you weak. He gave a harsh laugh. We were wrong. You're not the first to make that mistake, Miller said, setting up her datapad. But we need to know about the bigger picture. The Dominion. How many worlds do they control? Thousands, Reed answered. All perfect, all unified, all thinking and acting as one. His face showed a hint of pride, even in defeat. At least, that was what we thought we had created. Walker leaned forward. What do you mean? Your victory has caused problems in the Empire. Other worlds are questioning our methods. Some are even removing their neural networks. Reed's fingers tapped on the table nervously. The Dominion Council is in chaos. They never considered that individual thinking could defeat unified action. Miller's eyes lit up with interest. Is that why the neural network was so vulnerable to our virus? Because it couldn't handle random variations. Our network was perfect. Reed snapped, then calmed himself. Too perfect, perhaps. We removed chaos, removed individual choice, removed. He struggled with the word, creativity. The door opened and Major Ford entered, carrying new reports. Sir, you need to see this. We're picking up transmissions from deep space. Other worlds are trying to contact us. Walker took the reports, reading quickly. They want to learn from us. To trade. Reed nodded slowly. You've become a symbol. The primitive world that defeated the undefeatable. Some are calling it the start of a new age in the galaxy. Miller was already making notes. We'll need to establish diplomatic channels, set up communication protocols. And defenses, Ford added, just in case some don't share the friendly attitude. Walker stood, looking out the window at the desert where teams of humans worked on alien technology. In the distance, he could see new ships being built, human designs incorporating Vanquisher technology. High Commander, Walker turned back to Reed. You came to conquer us, but instead you gave humanity something we've needed for a long time. Unity and purpose. Reed's expression was unreadable. And what will you do with this unity? Will you become conquerors yourselves? No, Walker replied firmly. We'll do what humans have always done. Explore, learn, grow. But now we'll do it among the stars. As they left Reed's quarters, Miller looked at her data pad showing the deep space transmissions. It's ironic, isn't it? They came to add another world to their perfect empire. Instead, they showed the galaxy that perfection isn't everything. Walker smiled, watching a test flight of a new Earth-built spacecraft rise into the evening sky. The ship's design was a mixture of human innovation and alien technology, much like humanity's future would be. We're not perfect, he said. We never will be. But maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Above them, the stars twinkled with new possibility. Humanity had defended their world. Now they would take their place among those stars, not as conquerors or conquered, but as themselves, wonderfully, powerfully, imperfectly human.